So today, a perennial favorite, meatloaf, gets a little bit of a, well, I'd call it an upgrade. I'm making a cheeseburger, but a bacon cheeseburger version. So it has cheddar cheese in it and then bacon wrapped around it. And it is so good. I definitely think it's an upgrade. Because who doesn't want more deliciousness on their meatloaf? Which is already, let's be honest, pretty delicious. You'll need 2 onions peeled and minced. Heat a skillet over medium-high heat and add 2 tablespoons of olive oil and the minced onions. You want to cook these until they start turning golden brown. That'll probably take about, I don't know, 6 to 8 minutes, depending on the heat of your stove. I think I didn't add enough oil, which is shocking considering. And now you can see that they're starting to turn more evenly golden, which is heading towards caramelizing. Add a teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. This is going to give plenty of depth of flavor, which is always a great thing to add. I add it to a lot of like marinades and other kinds of sauces. It adds that depth that you really can't get any other way. Also a 1/4 cup of broth. This is chicken broth. And a 1/4 cup of ketchup. I also need another 1/2 cup of ketchup for the top, so I'm saving that aside in the bowl and just adding this here. Stir everything together, let the liquid boil up. Everything combines, and then it needs to cool completely before you add it to your meat mixture. This is 2 pounds of 85% lean ground beef, so it's got a good amount of fat, which you want in your meatloaf. And the cooled mixture with the onions and the Worcestershire sauce and ketchup. To that, add 1 egg. You want to beat it first. I often just add it to the bowl and beat it in the bowl, but it's actually probably better to do it this way. Egg. 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. And 1½ cups of grated cheddar cheese. Sort of a medium sharp cheddar cheese. I actually like the flavor of extra sharp, but it tends to break a little bit when it cooks, and you want something that'll melt. To that, add 2 teaspoons of salt. I'm using kosher salt, so if you're using not kosher salt, make sure you use less. 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, and then mix this all together. I'm going to switch to my hands, which is what the recipe says and is actually the best tool for doing this. So normally with meatloaf or meatballs, recipes instruct you not to overmix it. What we found to be the case when we were developing this recipe is, yes, you don't want to overmix it because you don't want to get it to be too tough, but you also don't want to undermix it because you want to make sure that it actually does hold together when you bake it and when you slice it. So I think I'm at that stage. I'm going to bake this on a baking sheet, which is what we found to be the most delicious way to make the meatloaf, because we found that you got more browning all over. It doesn't steam the way it would in a loaf pan, and we just thought it was more delicious that way. So firmly press into a loaf. Should be about 10 inches long. That'll end up with something about 2 inches thick as well. Now, clean hands. 1/2 cup of ketchup with 1 tablespoon of light or dark brown sugar. Stir together. This is your glaze. So in order to get your bacon to stick, you're gonna brush your meatloaf with about half the glaze, so a 1/4 cup approximately. Not only does that help the bacon stick, but it's also infusing the meatloaf with the flavor as it bakes. And then drape your bacon over the top. I like to tuck the ends under slightly so it stays on. You want enough bacon that it will cover your meatloaf completely. You can very slightly overlap it so that there are no gaps. And I do find that in this instance, the thinner bacon works better. The thicker bacon doesn't cook as nicely and doesn't get as crunchy and delicious as the thinner bacon, so look for the thin cut bacon if you happen to be the kind of person that generally tends towards thick. Should take about 6 ounces or 8 slices, but it really depends on how long you make your meatloaf, etc. I think mine was a little long, so I'm using a few extra slices. Get that nice and cozy in there. And then the remaining glaze goes over the top of the bacon. Have your oven preheating to 350 degrees. And get your meatloaf in the oven and cook it until it's 165 degrees. That'll take 55 to 65 minutes depending. When you take your meatloaf out of the oven, make sure to let it rest for at least 25 minutes so that it has the chance to reabsorb its juices and cool off enough that you can slice it. And then you can slice it up, and because it's a cheeseburger version, I thought serving it on a bun would be a great idea. So slice it up, get your buns ready. A little bit of lettuce maybe. Iceberg. Perfect for this situation. And then the pièce de résistance for this is a little bit of Russian dressing. Certainly you don't need to do that. You could do mustard, mayonnaise, more ketchup, whatever you like. But I'm going with the combo of all. Sandwich and eat. This recipe is so great, and it makes plenty, so there's going to be a lot of leftovers for you to take to work or eat for dinner for, like, 3 nights in a row. Enjoy. If you like recipes like this and you want more, make sure to click like and subscribe because we have plenty more where this came from.